And there we are, day 12 of the 1605 Content Festival. Welcome. I'm Jente Kater from Voice Booking. Before we start, I'm founder of Voice Booking. I'm a voice actor myself, and sometimes you will hear me stutter every now and then. Long story. So it's not your internet connection, it's just me then. If this is the first time for you here at the 1605 Content Festival, we came up with the idea in the middle of the lockdown, and we thought, hey, we need to do something fun. So we thought of a webinar, and then it became 2 webinars, it became 5, and here we are, a whole month of awesome webinars. It's number 12, so we are halfway, and it's quite fun, yeah. Today, it's all about online directing. And in the world of advertising, it's very normal for a voiceover to visit a studio. Or at least it was very normal back in the days. He or she went to the studio to bring the voiceovers of, or to bring the ideas of other people to life. Ideas as they are in the mind of the client, the creative. It's all about their 100%, and sometimes that takes minutes, and sometimes it takes over 1 hour. In 2011, we started with voice booking, and voices. There were voices then who had their own voice book. They were on the rise, and on the other end of the spectrum, there was a new type of client: creators of video content. And in comparison to those ad creatives, video producers put more faith into the skills of the voiceover. Of course, they would also make a briefing, but beyond that, they left it all up to the voiceover's interpretation. And suddenly it became all about the 100% of the voiceover. Meanwhile, at Voice Booking, we noticed that both ways of recording are blending together. And to present this webinar, we asked someone who has worked on both sides of the voice booth, as a creative and as a voiceover as well. Her name is Machteld van der Graag. She's a trilingual voiceover living here in Amsterdam. She's widely known, one of the most booked voices here at Voice Booking. She's doing Dutch, doing French, and neutral English. Meanwhile, during the webinar, if you have any questions, just ask them via the question and answer within Zoom, or if you are watching the live stream on Facebook, just ask them via Facebook. We all will read them. And afterwards, after the speech of Machteld, we will handle all the questions. Day 12 of the 1605 Content Festival, webinar number 12. It's Machteld van der Graag with online directing and remote recording. Enjoy.
Well, hello there. I'm Machteld, and welcome to my webinar about remote recording and remote directing, because we're also going to talk about the recording part of it, and it's useful for both voices and clients. So you know, I don't want to leave anyone out. I'm, as I said, a voiceover here at Voice Booking, and I'm trilingual because I was born in France and then grew up in England and then went back to the Netherlands. And this is my kind of normal English, but here in Amsterdam, many clients want a different kind of English, so I took coaching lessons for a different kind of English. And you can say in the Q&A, if you have questions, oh, do the other accent, or okay. So I can switch from time to time. Don't worry, don't mind me. Social distancing is the word at the moment, and I'm not talking about the 1 meter, 1.5 meters, or 2 meters we have to keep apart, but I'm talking real distances. So Amsterdam, Athens, New York, Newcastle, or Los Angeles, London. I mean, for us voices and clients, distance has never been an issue, because we can fix that, we can work with that. And well, Jente introduced me, but why am I the person to talk to you about this? Well, as he said, I've been on both sides of the spectrum, and I'm a voice artist and a voice coach, and I have been a copywriter for a long time. And the languages which I speak, so French, English, and Dutch are thanks to my father, who had an international job. So that's why the 3 languages kind of organically came about. And but my German is very bad. Anyway, so I started out as a multilingual copywriter in advertising, and that meant that I was a client. So I hired voice actors to voice my television commercials, my radio commercials, and most of them lived locally. And at the time, because we're talking a long time ago, they would come to the studio in Amsterdam or Hilversum or wherever they lived in the Netherlands. They would come and I would direct them in the studio. So the only distance that we could talk about was the distance between me sitting in the space where the sound designer was and the voice being in the sound booth, the vocal booth. That was the only distance there was. And by the way, I remind you, if you have any questions, please ask them. You can put them in Facebook. You can put them in the comments, and here on Zoom, I think it's here. Yeah, the Q&A part. Ooh, I already see one question. Okay, so so some of the vocal booths in sound studios have really small windows, and some have big windows. But if you have a small window, then you don't have eye-to-eye contact with the client or the voice. So the directing would already be done quite remotely, because you would only hear it. And all this communication is done by talking and listening to each other. It does have some advantages, because there's a system called the talkback, and that is the system by which the voice hears what's being said in the client space. And but sometimes the sound designer thinks, okay, you don't need to hear all this, or there's a discussion between 7 clients how they want to have it. So he switches off, usually it's a he, the talkback, and then the voice is just in this limbo. But if the window is big, and this happened to me, and you have 7 clients sitting there and no talkback, and you see them going, I thought, oh, this is going wrong, this is going wrong. And then the sound designer came on, put the talkback. He said, oh, you're all right, you can come out, we've got it. So I came out and I say, we've got it. I mean, you're all shaking no with your head. And I said, oh, no, we're talking about a restaurant, which was crap. Okay, so body language is also a big thing that you do have in a physical situation, but you don't have in a remote situation. Remote recording in the olden days used to mean, for instance, if I needed a French voice, I would hire a French voice, and a French voice actor would get into the plane from Paris, come to Amsterdam, do his thing, have a nice cappuccino, because all sound studios have really good coffee. And then I'd have my recording, and the French voice actor would have a nice weekend in Amsterdam, because they usually stayed for the weekend. And then, or the other way around, if I was a copywriter and I needed an English recording, I would fly to London, get good coffee, get a good recording with an English voiceover, and then I would stay the weekend, of course. So that was what remote recording was all about. And it was a lot of fun, and you felt really important, and you had great coffee, and it was very expensive and very time consuming, and it wasn't efficient at all. So then they came up with something, and it was called ISDN, which stands for Integrated Services Digital Network, but you knew that, of course. And this was a system, I'm not very technical, but basically it worked through the phone line, and you would connect 2 sound studios with each other, and through that phone line, they could, in one city to another, they could record high quality sound and have it kind of in real time. And it was a great system, and also just auditive, so you wouldn't see anyone, but you could listen to one another. which meant you have to have discipline on the client side, you know, that not everybody talks at once and not everybody gives advice at the same time. It was a great system, but it had its flaws. You know, it went through the phone line, so you'd have to keep calling, or there was literally, you know, like a scramble on the line. It's just a bit like those Zoom meetings we have now, you know. So, oh, are you on? Yeah, no, I can't see you. Oh, you've gone now. Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't see you. You know, that kind of thing. So that was a bit what ISDN was about, but already it was revolutionary. It really was. And it meant that the choice of voice talents you could use was exploding. I mean, here in Amsterdam, you could hire a voice in LA and record them and not have them fly over. So it was also quite sustainable. So we, as a small country and a small market, we would only use it on kind of special occasions, and it was first limited to really professional sound studios, and gradually some voice colleagues of mine, you know, usually the guys or girls who were quite technical, they got it and they could advertise with ISDN, so they could record remotely. And as I said, the directing was purely on the ears. So as if you're in a small booth with 7 people sitting there, but very small windows, so you wouldn't see them. And one of the difficult things is, especially when you don't see each other, when you don't look each other in the eye, is that if there are several clients on one side, you need to pick one captain on the ship to direct the voice, because otherwise the voice goes crazy. Okay, so if the phone line wasn't the most reliable way to reliable technique, it was a small step to go to internet to do it online. And first along came Skype, which is a different system, but it doesn't, you can't record in high quality on both sides, so you'd have to record locally. But the big advantage is you'd see someone. So you'd see someone in the booth being bored or just picking their nose, or so it would already make it more personal. So you could do, you know, have the ISDN recording and then have the Skype to see each other. So that was kind of the next step. But of course, then because the recording was done locally, you'd have to send those big files along, and now we have retransfer, but we didn't have that at the time. So it was put on an FTP, a file transfer protocol site, and then so it would last a little longer, but still very, very much more quick than you know, flying all over the place. So we've got all these FaceTime, Zoom, Skype, Webby, where you can have a remote recording and directing with seeing each other, which is, you know, fun and great and makes life much easier. And now the next step, what happened is that they, like ISDN, they wanted the recording done in high quality on both sides. So now we have systems like Source Connect or Session Link. And with that, someone in LA can record you here in Amsterdam in high quality. You both need the system, although now there are systems like Source Connect Now or IP DTL or something that the quality is a little less, but still good enough. But I suggest, if you're a voice listening, always, even if you use that system, always make a backup recording on your side, because there could be a glitch. Happened to me 2 weeks ago, and then you have the recording locally as well, and you can send it, and then it's fine. So yeah, recording remotely is really magic when it comes down to it. I mean, last week I dubbed a French documentary about the Notre Dame with someone in LA, and the client was in Chicago. And I also had, with an Austrian sound studio, I did a French commercial. And so they were in Vienna and the clients were in Paris and Amiens. And it's just like when you hear that on your headphones, it's just like the people are sitting just outside your booth. I mean, it's amazing. And with this Austrian project, the setup was just like in the studio. So I had on my screen, I had the commercial, and they had put 2 beeps in front of it so I would know when to start. And they had already calculated, because there was a slight latency of not even half a second, but they had put the 2 beeps in such a way that when I recorded, the client would see it as being really sync. So I thought, oh, I'm starting too early, but with the latency of getting through all the lines, the client would see it as, you know, really great. And that brings us to one very important point: a good internet connection, both for the client and for the voice. Here in the Netherlands, we're lucky because we have good internet. I would recommend, if you do this kind of recording, to do the internet cabled, so not on Wi-Fi, because cabled is much more stable. But you might encounter countries where the internet isn't that stable or reliable, and that might mean a few glitches. So again, make sure you have a local backup recording. So we've covered the hardware and software side of the remote recording. You've had your cappuccino, and you know, as a client, you're here to direct, so you're all set. And if you're a voice, you're ready to be directed, you're all set as well. So let's look now from the perspective of a client. Okay, who is a client? Well, I used to be a client, and sometimes I'm still a client, but a client could be a person representing a company, a project manager, marketing director or manager. It could be someone from an advertising agency, so it could be the copywriter or a project manager from the copywriter, a TV producer. It could be an animator. It could be a web video director. Any kind of those people, and but it could also be all of them at once. And this, you know, it used to happen more often, but now with remote recording, it does happen again, that there are 5, 6, sometimes 7 people on the line. And here, you know, in a physical recording, the sound technician has an important role, because he's like the referee. He says, okay, you shut up and you talk, and you know, he's like the leader of the pack. But if you have this remote recording where everybody's sitting in different countries, in different offices, at home, wherever, up front, you have to designate someone to do the talking. Okay, I'm now noticing that this accent is probably the most natural to me, so I'll stick to this accent. Forget what I said in the beginning. But if you have other questions, you can put them in the Q&A. Yeah, so designate one person, one captain on the ship, and that'll make the job easier for everybody. And it's also nice for the voice to know who's who. So just start off with a round of introduction. You know, I'm the copywriter, I'm the project manager, I'm the marketing director, oh, I'm the voice. And that way everybody knows what their role is and what is expected of them. So if as a client you've done this before, either remotely or in a studio, and if as a voice talent you've done it before, you're set. It should be a walk in the park. However, if as a client you haven't done this many times before, maybe it's your first time, your third or second time, and this also goes for the voice talent, don't bluff your way into everything. be honest about it. Maybe say it up front. I mean, don't play the insecure card. Oh, I'm so nervous. This is the first time I'm doing this. No, you've been hired by the client, so he or she is expecting you to deliver. So as a voice, don't be, you can be nervous, and you can say, okay, I haven't done this very often, so please be patient with me. But also as a client, be cool. It's not rocket science. It's just getting along with each other in a normal way. And basically, there are three kind of remote recording modes. There's the full Monty, which means there's a commercial or there's a film. You have to dub it or narrate it. You've got the time code. You've got the music, the whole shebang. And this is quite intricate. So if you have not done this before, I would suggest maybe as a voice to ask the client to maybe go to an outside studio, because then you only have to worry about your performance and you don't have to worry about all the technical aspects that come with it. The second kind of recording is it's more of a listening in, and it's more of setting the tone. So you'll do a read and the client will listen and will give feedback, and maybe once you've hit the right tone of voice and the right pace, and maybe there was some explanation, then maybe if it's a long text, the client will tell you, okay, you can go on from here, and I'll get the files when you're finished. And the third one is a very light way of remote recording. It's actually more of a briefing. So you have this kind of remote contact, and it's, you just say, I want it like this or like that, and go ahead and I'll see the files. And the best example I had of this, and this was really a remote recording, very, very remote. I was on holiday in California, in Piedmont, and I was staying with a friend, and I got this audition, because I can never stop working when I'm on holiday. Anyway, I got this audition. I won this audition to voice a kind of educational animation series, and it was about chemicals. And it was for an Australian client in Sydney, and I was in Piedmont, California, and I had to do Gzina on the top, who is a Russian, well, she's played by a Dutch actress, so that's why the algorithms found me. But it was amazing, because we had a WhatsApp conversation. They called me and they said, okay, we want this and this and that, and this is the script, and just give us a few takes of every line. And so that was already a phone call with 17 hours of time difference. And then I recorded it in the cupboard of the guest room and sent it off with 17 hours time difference to Sydney. So this was the most remote recording I did.
Hey, you looking for a bond?
Only if the chemistry's right.
Welcome, Gold. Where do we start?
By telling me the name of that atom with the blonde Bond shell.
That's Chlorine, Queen of the Bleach. She's poison. You don't want to know her.
I'm not so sure about that. So, where are they being trained?
I heard of a secret room inside the academy.
Let's go.
Yeah, some jobs are not about the money, but they're about the fun. And this was one of them. So I know you're enjoying your cappuccino as a client, but I have to be very strict now, talking about education. In other words, have you done your homework before the recording? The success of directing a voice remotely, and also physically, of course, mostly comes down to the prepping of the session. Okay, so there are a few, there's a kind of checklist you can use. The first step is a no-brainer. You need a final script. you know, the document where it says def, final, this is the final script. You need that one, approved by your boss, by your colleagues, by R&D, by the legal department. That script is what you need. Okay, if you have the approved copy ahead of the session, you might want to share it with the voice already, so the voice can kind of read it through, do with it whatever the voice wants. We'll get to that later. And but it might be handy. Music. Are you going to use music in your video? If you do, you might want to share that. It doesn't matter if it's the real music, but it's more the sense of music, because if you have a very loungy music, you know, the voice will kind of have to blend into that. But if you have a really high energy thing, you know, the voice will have to keep up the energy as well, 200 beats a minute. So yeah, music is something you might consider sharing with the voice up front. If you're looking for a specific tone of voice, you might want to send examples. I know that many of my clients, they send me these videos with really dark voices, the trailer-like voices, and it's not my voice at all. But, you know, I humor them and I try to do them, and then we end up with something completely different. But tone of voice, you know, you can describe it. You can say, I want it warm or energetic or dynamic or motherly or very businesslike or more smiley. You know, you can describe it, but you can also send a video of, you know, something you like. And you said, well, I'm thinking about that kind of tone of voice. That's very helpful. And then the length of the copy. So here's a question for you, trick question. How many words go into a minute? Of course, it varies per language, but in English, you're looking at about 130, 150 words per minute. And of course, there are people who talk a mile a minute, but that's kind of the average for, you know, business videos or animations. And so do the math. If you have a copy document and it's gone through the legal department who've added, I don't know how many disclaimers, and the corrector split 3 sentences because he thought that, you know, it would sound better, and then someone from R&D added another sentence, and suddenly you end up with a copy document of 400 words, and your video is 2 minutes. It's not going to work. So get back to the drawing board and make sure that it fits. You could try that by recording a guide track, or they also call it scratch read sometimes. You just do that on your phone, and then you think, yeah, that fits. Yeah, that fits. But very often those guide tracks are recorded very quickly because you want it to fit, and then the voice, it's not that we're very slow, but we put more emphasis and more color in our reads, and we end up a little slower than the guide tracks. So humor us and add about 10% of time, allow for that, you know, margin, so that we can make the text fit into the time. Okay, if you have any difficult words, you know, like in a medical e-learning project or a technical thing, or abbreviations, you know, write them out, or also record a little guide track to help the voice along, because, you know, we're very clever, of course, but we don't know everything. And, you know, 1 minute we're doing an e-learning for brain surgeons, and then a commercial for a sneaker, and next a web video for a government, or a voice a character in a fantasy game. But we don't know how to pronounce every word. And of course, there are sites where you can look this up, and even if you just type in the word and then pronunciation, you end up with quite a lot of suggestions, some of which are not very consequent, and especially with the US and UK pronunciations you might go wrong as well. But, you know, I had this one job, it was really fun, but it was a 10-minute video about a pulp paper fabric factory, not fabric, pulp paper factory in Finland. And it was just loaded with these Finnish names. And I got a 3-minute audio guide track with only the names. And, you know, they're wonderful, but they sound like double Dutch to me. It's like Olavi Siraven and Ratopia and Nihiloriti. And, you know, I had to do that really organically throughout the whole text, but I still listen to the guide track sometimes. It soothes me. Okay, so where were we? We've tackled the final script. We've tackled the word count or length, the tone of voice, music. You also need to tell the voice who they are addressing, because it makes a difference if you're talking to business people or to mothers or teenagers or yoga teachers or plumbers or the Queen or a Gothic convention or students. You know, that there are many audiences, and for each audience, the voice can adapt the way he or she would voice it. So it's handy to know, to have the right mood for the reading, the recording of the voice and directing it. And then last but not least, this is not a very favorite subject to voices, variations in a script. You know, the sentences where there's the little asterisk and said, oh yes, as an alternative, we would like to record this as well. And oh yeah, and this as well, and this as well. Of course, it happens, and you have this one recording, so I understand, but try to do your homework beforehand and think, okay, how many variations do we need, and do we really need them? So really, really think about that. And if you can, just put them at the bottom of the copy document so that you get your recording with the preferred script, and then if you need the alternatives, you'll record them afterwards. But then if you record the whole script as a whole, you get the momentum and you get the right feel, and the alternatives can just be kind of punched in. Okay, it seems like a lot, but a good preparation saves a lot of time and frustration during the remote recording. So I would suggest just tick all the boxes and you'll be fine. So as a client, you're all set. You've got your coffee and you've got good internet, and you found a place in the office or at home where you feel comfortable, where there's no noise, and you're waiting for the recording. You're ready to go. So during the chit chat and the formalities, you turn your mic on because you want to communicate and you get to meet everybody. And during the recording, you turn it off because you might be sitting in a very quiet office or a very quiet place in your home, but still, if something happens on your side, it might distract the voice who is doing the read. So during the recording, as a client, mute your microphone. Start by, after having introduced each other, the voice will do a read. Just let the voice do a read and listen to it. Don't interrupt, but take notes. Even if there are mishaps or if a pronunciation isn't good or someone is stuttering or, starting again, don't worry. Just take notes, and so you can give comments once the read is over. And again, if you're with several parties, you have already said, okay, you're the spokesperson and you're going to tell the voice the comments. So that works. Now, please take in mind that the first comment is very important. It's in the French say, c'est le ton qui fait la musique. It's the way, it's your opening, and you can make or break the session with that. And I have a favorite collection of 2 words here. It's be kind, be professional, be constructive. okay, 6 words, but you know what I mean, because the voice you've hired is a professional, and even if it's a starting out professional, you liked the sound, you believe in the voice, and so you should be respectful and constructive, and you'll get the best results out of them. Usually voices are very nice people, and more importantly, you're here to direct the voice, and that's the magic of it, because as a director, the voice is like clay in your hand. You can get them anywhere you want. If you ask them to put more energy into it, you get that. If you want more smile into it, you'll get that. And if you want, I don't know, more dynamics, more boldness, more warmth, you know, or read it like you would speak to a friend. All those kind of directions should give you a different read. And that's the magic of directing. And it can really be done remotely, no worries. But be kind, be professional, and be constructive, and you'll get the best results. And if the voice is a beginner, it might take a little longer, but, you know, be patient and be constructive. And just like the job you're doing, being a voiceover is not a skill that you acquire overnight. So, you know, you're here to do the 10,000 flying hours with that voice, and you're just flying with them, little part of the journey, and you know, you have to get the best results. Even then, if you do encounter difficulties during the recording, you know, remember, stay calm, stay kind, stay professional, and stay constructive. And if you're happy, just say so. Oh, that was a great read. Oh yeah, I like the first part, and maybe we should concentrate now on the second part. We've got the first part, you know, those kind of things. If you want to give the stage to the voice and say, okay, so how would you, I have what I, you know, what I need now, but how would you interpret the text? Do you have a completely different take on it? Because the voice has a fresh approach to the copy. I mean, you've been going on this copy for weeks and you know, rewriting, but for the voice, it's the first time that he or she sees the script, and they might have a completely different take on it, and it might surprise you. It might also be rubbish, and then you'll just have a good laugh about it. So, but you know, be respectful of each other, give each other the stage, and you know, listen to each other. It's all about communicating. So just like in the studio, of course, the recording session should be professional, but it should also be fun, because remember, it's a very fun job. You know, both asking someone to record your text and as a voice to record it. It's, you know, so keep that in mind as well, that don't take yourself too seriously. Of course, there's a job to be done, but you know, you can also have some fun in between. So now that the client has done his or her part, we move to the side of the voice. No cappuccino for you, no latte, nothing, no milk products. I know, I'm being very strict, but milk products activate the saliva, and you might get all these mouth noises. So no milk products before you can, you know, spoil yourself with a coffee or tea with milk after the session. And I know that there's ways to remove those mouth noises, but it's just easier to avoid them. Okay, so what do you have to do as homework? You have to be fit. You have to sleep well. You can do warming up exercises with your voice, like with singing exercises. I do okay, that kind of exercises. Come prepared, show up at the right moment, have your gear set up, test it. if you're recording with another studio remotely, it might be a good idea to test the quality of the recording before the client comes in. And if you're insecure about that, funny thing is that last week or 2 weeks ago, I did the same webinar in Dutch, and there was a question saying, "Oh, my client wants to join me in my home studio, but I don't feel very comfortable about that." I said, "Well, don't be uncomfortable. Just rent an outside studio. Say to your client, okay, I would be much more comfortable if we would rent an outside studio." And she did, and the result was wonderful. So, don't be pushed into uncomfortable situations, because it will all affect your performance. So you need good internet, cabled preferably. Check your settings. Get a glass of water or two. Get a pen and paper, because you're going to get comments and directions, and you want to make a note of what the client is saying and keep all that in mind. I'm making noise now, but wear silent clothes. I mean, not that shirt which goes all crispy and crackling like a fireplace. Here it's my buttons. That's a no-go. But be aware that your clothing doesn't make any noise, or jewelry or whatever. If you have received the copy ahead of time, practice the difficult words. You might just say them out loud 2-3 times. I have this one word in English copy which I struggle with all the time. Okay, here goes. Effortlessly. Now it comes out effortlessly, but I can assure you, during many, many recordings, I would just go, "Oh, that's that word again, effortlessly." It's a horrible word, and it comes back again in business animations. Oh, I hate it. Effortlessly. Okay. What's next? Switch off your phone to flight mode. You don't want to be disturbed, and if you're working on a computer, just switch off shut down all the programs which might go beep, notification, beep, beep. You don't want that either during the recording. And there's another thing. Don't talk about money matters or budgets during the session. It's a no-go. These things should be either, clear before the session, or if they're not clear, just have a phone call afterwards. But it's not really chic to do that during the session. Okay, so now you're all set. You click on the link and you're connected with the client. And if you're confident enough, you keep your camera on, because, you meet the client or the clients through the camera. If you're confident, you leave it on while you're recording and the client sees you talk with your hands and pull funny faces. If you're not confident, be confident enough to tell the client so, and to say, "I don't want to really record with the camera on, so do you mind if I switch on the camera during the recording?" That's fine. It's your show. You should be comfortable with what you're doing, okay? And here basically as well, the 6 words apply as well. Be kind, be professional, be constructive, because that goes for the voice as well. And the session should go smoothly that way. I mean, it's your 15, 30, 45 minutes of fame. And even if there are discussions, be respectful, listen to each other, communicate. And, you have to deliver, and you've got this. You're nailing this. Of course, it does happen that even with a remotely directed session, the client, either during the session or afterwards even, this has happened to me recently, is not happy with the recording. Can happen. It can even go to the extent that they say, "Okay, we're not going to use the material you provided. We're going with another voice. Then again, count to 10, be kind, be professional, and be constructive. First you can try and find a solution with the client. If there's no other way, take your loss. This is a learning moment. We all get rejected, and that's the only way to learn. So try to understand why the client wasn't really happy, and so you can take that with you in the next session and think, okay, there's a dent in my ego, but okay, I've got this. I will use this information for my next session, and you'll grow this way. Absolutely. And this is very important for your image and your marketing, because if you stay nice, the client will remember that. He won't remember that you did something that he disapproved on, but you were nice. And if you're a bad loser, or if then he only remembers, oh yeah, no, you've not only lost the client, but you've also lost the possibility of that client referring you to other clients. It's all about networking. So, and it's all about interaction and communication. So keep that in mind, that you stay nice even if things go wrong. So you've done your first read and you get comments from the client, and you take it all in, you take notes, and then you do a second read and you implement all the comments which you have received, like, do it slower, or maybe have more smile, or, those kind of things. It's kind of easy. If it's a long text, you might want to chop it up in paragraphs and take it a paragraph at the time, and read and record until everyone's happy. And then if you feel you want to offer a completely different read and the client is open to that, feel free to do that and offer them that. Now at this stage, you've done quite a few takes, you have all the directions fresh in your head, and this is something maybe you want to say up front, but you can also say to the client, okay, we've done all this, but there's so much going on in your head, you've got to keep track of everything. You say, okay, when you're all gone, I'm going to take the text again and I'm going to do a read without all of you listening in, because your performance might be better. Again, it might not be the case, but I feel sometimes that during the recording, I have to take into account so many things at the same time. I have to multitask that for me, I like to do a recording, maybe 2 if it's a short text, afterwards. So why do this extra work? Because, during the session, you have to record, you have to be the recording technician, you have to interpret directions, you have to keep track of the preferred takes, sometimes even combining them. You have to take sips of water, you have to crack jokes in between. You have to take notes. Basically, you're multitasking at the highest level. And if you feel this can affect your voice delivery, which is completely understandable, then offer this extra service. See it as a bonus track for the client. And for me, I often find it a nice kind of closure, because the energy during a remotely directed session is often quite high. You're on your toes, and then afterwards you can relax and really do your craft. So it's a nice way of wrapping up, really. And talking about wrapping up, this might be a good moment to wrap up this webinar. So basically, in conclusion, remote recording and directing. It's now possible for clients and voices from all over the world to record wherever they are, and communicate with each other. You need good equipment, you need good internet, you need good skills, and you have to be sure to bring your good mood to a recording session as well, because remember, we're all here to help each other. So thank you for listening. Remember, be kind, be professional, and be constructive, and most of all, be safe. So I think I'll go back to Jente now, and I'm ready for your questions. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Machteld. Very enjoyable. Before we go to the question and answers, if you have any questions, you can just ask them via the question and answer within Zoom or via Facebook. If you're watching via Facebook, just write them down, and we will try to answer them all. There are a lot of questions, Machteld, so it's going to be a lot. Tomorrow, first off, we have a social media strategy webinar with Kevin DeWitt of Social Agency Go Spooky. Then we have an audiobook professional, Nano Nengel. She's joining us Friday to talk about the process of recording audiobooks. And our friend Stefan Konikar, he's a voice actor based in London, French and neutral English. He will be joining us next Monday to discuss creating characters for animation. And then I think it's next Wednesday, our very own Gijs Friese will tell you all about sound design for video producers. So if you are a video producer or maybe a voice, you want to know more about sound design, but you don't want to be the most skilled one, but just want to know the basics, I would say check out that webinar. Go to voicebooking.com/en/webinar. And all the webinars I mentioned here are in English. Okay, back to Machteld. Very enjoyable what you did. What I really love is just the way you speak. You love what you do, and I'm always amazed about you being a trilingual voice. So you do French, you do neutral English, and you ask everyone, just tell me what different accent I should do. Well, Machteld, Jeroen van Kloppenburg, he said, do a French accent. English, French.
I want to do a French accent, yes. Actually, it's easy because...
Okay, switch to London.
To London?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because I grew up...
Switch to Brooklyn.
Brooklyn? That's... Oh.
Switch to LA.
LA, oh yeah, but American, it's like one
Switch to Dutch.
Oh, but Dutch, it's like my mother. She talks like this. Swedish? The Swedish cook.
Really great. Okay. Yeah. Teamwork is crucial when you are doing a remote recording session. But with all those customers, how do you prepare for such a session?
How do I prepare? Yeah, it's kind of difficult for me to think about that because for me it's I've done it so long that it comes kind of natural. Yeah. Although I do realize that if I have a new client, I might get a little more nervous. Like last week I had a session with a new client in LA. How do I prepare? If I have the text, I'll read it. I know that not everyone is a fan of doing that, but I think, just knowing I can do a first read without tripping over words will help me. So I do like to read the text up front and basically, be rested, be calm, not be in a hurry. Yeah. Also,
when you started doing voices, you already were working as a copywriter. So you started at the other side of the voice booth, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that was it a positive thing for you that you already knew how a recording session worked, or?
Oh yes, of course. Yes, the the side of it that, you know, I knew how it worked in a sound studio, and also being a copywriter, I knew when I directed voices, I knew how I wanted it, because you know, I had it in my head the way I wanted it. But sometimes there were voice actors who would do something completely different, and they would surprise me, and it would be better. So it's not always the way you direct someone is the best way. But it does have, I have a knowledge of text. I have I know the rhythm. I know so writing and delivering voice. And I did amateur theatre. I think that also I mean, there are lots of voice actors who have an acting education, and I have an amateur acting education, but it does help. It does help.
When you look at the voiceover industry, there are two ways of working, if I'm saying it black and white. The one way is the way it goes with creatives. So the top creatives want their 100%. And then there is the media side. And those people, many of those just say, okay, just do 3 versions. And for example, then it's just do selling, hard selling, and harder. So I'm talking black and white now. So I think in the television industry, it's even just do it like that. And I once worked with a voice who did her first remote session with an advertising client, so somebody who wanted to have his 100% while she was from the side of okay, just do 2 versions and it's okay. And then she had to do just 1 line, 1 hour long, just 1 line, and she went insecure. Yeah.
But you never know that beforehand. I mean, even an advertising project could go really well, or as you say, you could spend 1 hour on 1 line. But that's the magic and the surprise of every project. And also, the more insecure a client is, sometimes also, the more he'll want to get out of you. So in that way, you have, maybe after half an hour, if you're thinking, okay, this is not going anywhere, maybe sometimes you have to reverse the roles and say, okay, let me try this, or but it's all about feeling each other and staying respectful. That's really
because staying respectful is then I think it's a hard job, and I noticed within voice booking we people from Holland have an opinion about everything, and we just say it. But people from some other countries are voicing in a way, okay, I just do what the client says. Have you experienced that working for clients in France, United States, etc., etc.?
There's not a lot of difference between clients from different countries. I would say it's more about, as you say, advertising agencies are very, very, meticulous about what they want, and animators and business video makers and producers, they're more relaxed, and they have more, as you say, more faith in your skills. But there's, within the countries, there's not so much difference, I find.
And what do you think is best?
What do I in what regard?
So the cliche of a media person says, okay, just one version, or the prize-winning creative who wants you to do 40 versions and finally goes for version number 3. I'm just joking.
Yeah. I think it's you can't compare them. I mean, I like, of course, I like the laid back attitude of, just give me your best read and then maybe do a retake or something, because often a client can only think, oh, I want that differently after he or she has heard your delivery. But it's different for each project. And, if it goes smoothly, then it's fine. And sometimes there are projects which are a little less smooth, but it's all part of the game. And that's what keeps it interesting and exciting, because it's different every time.
Yeah. What you just said about never talk about money in the studio, I think that's true. I once made the mistake with I had to do a voice job of, I think it was somewhere between 12,000 words and 16,000 words. It were 45 pages, and they were being translated from English to Dutch, and they wanted me to do it from my home studio. So I said, okay, that's good, but I think it's good if we start by doing it together in the studio, and because my studio is the voice booking studios, we did it just here. And then what went wrong was that the translation was really bad. So we had to shift. And I said, okay, well, we can do everything with you guys being here in the studio. But you really have to translate it while not being in the studio. Okay, so they didn't do that. So finally, we needed 3 more days to record. And I not only mean 3 days of recording the voiceover, but we had to edit like hell, because every line of that, every line we had to think, okay, how would you say it? Let's try it like this. No, let's try it like that. And then I made a big mistake of me being the producer and being the voice. So oh God, I had to talk about money as being the producer.
Yeah, but that's a common mistake, that you take on too much.
Yeah.
And the project goes off the charts. Yeah. And then at one point you have to say, okay, time out. We have to get back to the drawing board. This is not going the way we planned it. We have to do a new a quote and take it from there. But it's difficult once you're in the process, and especially with such a long project, to do that. It's difficult.
So you think if things really go wrong, you should say somewhere, pause. Okay.
Before wasting any time of your time, the studio's time. It just costs too much money.
That sounds good. Okay, let's do some questions from the audience. If you have any questions, just go to the question and answer within Zoom or go to Facebook. Maja Lundvik says, a very informative webinar so far. My question is, could home studios kill outside studios the way streaming movies are killing movie theaters?
I don't think so, because I think for certain projects, you really have to go to an outside studio. First, they make your coffee which is really good.
Good cappuccino, yeah.
But no, I think for some projects you really need, as an actor, to be completely in your performance, and then you should not have to think about all the technicalities and everything. So I hope, and I think, I mean, we'll all be replaced by robots anyway, but until that time, I think outside studios are still very much needed.
Okay. Iona Cosma, she says her internet connection wasn't that stable. Anyway, she says, how many words enters in a minute?
Well, for English, on average, it's 130, 150 for normal reading for like a web video or something like that. Of course, you can go up to, I think about 300-400 words a minute, you know, like word artists. But for business videos, it's about 130, 150.
Yeah, and by you being trilingual,
I'm not very fast.
I'm not native English. Trilingual.
Yeah, I'm not very fast. So I do, especially with French jobs, I do get, you know, they want me to go faster and faster and faster, and I just so they end up speeding me up. But I did an international English one the other day, which was, I was amazed to hear myself back because it was the low trailer voice and it was really fast, and they didn't even speed me up. So I don't know how they edited that, but
okay,
yeah.
We also had somebody from Morocco. How's your English in Morocco, by the way?
My English in Morocco?
Yeah, so we did Sweden style, we did London style, we did Brooklyn style.
Oh, I don't know any Moroccans who speak English.
Okay. So his question, Ahmed El Masoudi says, would you say the subject is truly a case of home studio versus professional studio, or is a home studio more an evolution of the regular studio?
It's more an evolution. And I know there are some home studios who are really, really professional, but usually they used to be sound designers or technicians before, and they turned voiceover. But for people like me who are not completely technical, for me it's all about the good recording and the voice, and I leave the technical side of it to sound designers. So the editing, I mean, I deliver my files without any hiccups or mistakes, but all the mixing and the editing of the breath and stuff like that, I don't do myself, and a professional does that.
Yeah. Sometimes you are in a remote recording and the client says, it's a wrap. And you think, no, it isn't. Yeah,
that happens. And then you say, no, it isn't. Could I do one more read? I would suggest to do this or that. And if the client says no, well, then it's a no.
Okay. What I noticed with remote recordings, I'm not sure if I'm right, but isn't it the case that people are how do you say that in English? That they are more too late than when going to a real studio. So I mean, not on time. Excuse me for my English.
Oh, I have really nice clients, and they're always on time. I haven't experienced that. My experience is that people arrive too late in physical studios, actually, because they're stuck in traffic. Or they have a different time in their head or something.
It's just my clients then.
Yeah, it's just your clients.
Sorry. I have other clients. Yeah. Okay. Another one. How to deal with egos?
Oh yeah, well, I think you should have a tile made up and say, you know, be kind, be professional, be constructive, and count to 10. Mm-hmm. Yes, egos can get in the way of your voice performance. also as a voice, your ego can get in the way. It's all about, being in the moment, being mindful, and really getting down to the basics. Is this really worth the battle? Yeah. Pick your battles, and if an ego really wants you to go out of your comfort zone, judge for yourself if you can deliver that or not. And if you can't, then, just say, okay, I'm sorry. I was hired once, and with my, kind of neutral, nice, business-like motherly voice, and it was a radio commercial for a car. And on the spot, they said, well, we changed the copy, and we want you to sound like Brit, and she's a Dutch, kind of, she talks like that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I said, well, I don't have that.
Jersey Shore, wasn't it?
Hmm?
It's a bit like.
Yeah, a bit Jersey. Yeah, a bit like that. Yeah. And I said, well, I don't have her voice in my register. And they were like, but you're an actress. I said, yeah, but if you told me yesterday, I would have studied her voice and her way of speaking, and I probably could have delivered it. But now on the spot.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, understand. David Gay Parrot.
David. It's a colleague.
Okay.
He's in Kyoto. Hello, David.
From France.
Yes.
Okay. 6 points. Machteld, do you personally have a preference between home studio or in-studio recording?
Well, I mean, I'm old-fashioned, so I would have a preference for going to a studio, because it's you see people, they have better coffee. It's more relaxed. But for many of the little projects, the web videos we have now, then I think it's really nice that I can do that from home. I don't have to go anywhere. I save a lot of time. But just this morning, I have a project for 25 videos, and he said, well, it sounded so good, the demo from your home, so you can do it from your home. And I was going, oh, I would have liked to do that out of home. But, it's a compliment for my home studio that he found the quality good enough. Yeah. But sometimes it's, the combination is nice. But it used to be that I think about 80% was out of my studio. So I went to studios all over. Yeah. And now about 80% is done in my studio. So it's a completely, I mean, I've been in lockdown for 6 years, basically.
David Perry, here's a question about you are being the engineer or sound engineer. You already talked about it, but I think it's good to do some questions about this one. Voiceover, who's doing a remote job from his home studio.
Yeah, I think
in what matter or what way should he or she also be an engineer?
Well, I think we have to be an engineer up to a certain point. I mean, you have to be able to record yourself. You have to be able to edit out all your mistakes, so you can deliver that. But for me, that's about it. I can even put silencers in there, but I know that my clients usually like my recordings as raw as possible so that they can do something to it. Yeah. But it just depends on how technical you are. I'm not very technical, so I'm already very proud of what I'm achieving now. But I'm now learning a new software program because I want to record sync to film, and I find it so difficult to change software, and I'm really struggling.
And which one?
Logic, because I have a Pro Tools trauma.
You have a Pro Tools trauma?
Yes.
Oh my. Oh, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I think we should talk about it.
Yeah, okay. But so the level of engineering. Are there clients who are saying, "Oh, you don't sound design the job right now," or do you have those clients?
No, I don't have them a lot. It does happen, but then I have so many people in my network, usually very nice colleagues or men or sound designers who I'll just hire, and they'll do that for me.
Yeah.
So I can always refer them to people who do that much better than I would. So I'm not even going there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think you might probably not say this in 2020 now. We know this here at Voice Booking. It are the people who do sound design or editing, etc., in a professional way are the male voices. Most women don't have a radio background, and most people who understand how to make really good, awesome editing and sounds, those are the radio guys.
Yeah.
It's, okay.
Yeah. Although I think people like Barbara Karel or Jolanda Bayens, they're quite technical and
they are radio.
Oh, radio. Okay. Yeah. But they're they show people that women can do it as well.
Okay, so you aren't shooting me now? No hashtag me too? Or
no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm a very sexist woman as well, so I don't mind.
Okay, Howard Ellison says, Pro Tools, absurd complexity. Twisted Wave Mac only is far more nimble and initiative.
Yeah, I'm a Twisted Wave fan, and it was actually given to me by a radio guy who said after my Pro Tools mishap, and he said, "Well, try that," and I've really been happy with it. But now I run into things, that I want to record like they do in outside studios with the image and that you can't do that in Twisted Wave. So Twisted Wave is great, but it has its limitations.
Yeah, okay. I really love Pro Tools, but I should say I'm working with it. Starting in,
I think
95 or.
Yeah, I think if you would send me to a remote island with only Pro Tools, I would probably get the hang of it within a few months. But I'm not in that situation.
I understand. I think we are there.
Yes, I saw something else, face-to-face, yes, good, but can that be done with IP, DTL, and Source Connect? Well, no, that's only through the audio, and I don't know if you attach a kind of FaceTime or Skype thing to that, if you get, you might get echoes or stuff.
Yeah, so it's a bit... this is a story about the sound quality, so if you do IP, DTL, or Source Connect, I'm not aware of the latest functions, but most of them are audio only. If you go with Session Link also serves video with it. It really works well, really. Okay, then we are there. Thank you very much, Machteld van der Graag, for sharing your knowledge, but also your positivity. And you are here next week again, not for a webinar, but for doing my part of the webinar. And that's next week, next Wednesday, with audio design. So you're going to ask questions about audio design.
Yes, I'm going to ask Gijs everything.
As a woman. Very nice. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks, Machteld.
Thank you. Thank you.